Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host, Dividend Dave. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. You definitely want to be a member of the posse. And please welcome to this episode of the podcast. You know him on Twitter, you know him on YouTube, over 10,000, close to 11,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and well over 7,000 followers on Twitter. I'm going to throw it over to Darth Dividend to give himself an introduction.
Hey, Dave, thanks for having me on and welcome. This is my first time on your channel, and I appreciate finally we can get on here. I've been so busy with graduate school, nurse practitioner school, and being a travel nurse. Finally have time. Wait, let's try this time. Let's try it this time. We finally got on. So I'm excited to be on here.
Yeah, definitely. We've been trying literally since I started this podcast nearly 3 months ago to set up a time to get you on, and finally we have some time to just sit down and talk about dividends and talk about passive income, and we'll just see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, I mean, I can stay on here for a while, so I'm good now. I finally have time. It's just been wild. I mean, it's just one thing after another, but very excited, and you're a very solid investor, so I'm very, I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, well, thank you, and like I said, thank you for coming on. And yeah, you have some great insight as well. Obviously, I just do want to point out to the viewers, as everyone knows, I'm in Canada and Darth is in the U.S., so I'm sure we're going to be talking back and forth about some of the different sectors in Canada and the U.S. and how they compare to each other and the differences and similarities. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I guess right off the hop, any kind of favorite sector that you'd like to talk about, or
I mean, right now, let's see, I was on Ryan's channel. I know you're going to have Ryan on here. I really am focusing on the financial sector and the real estate sector. They have not really done well since the pandemic, and bank stocks out there. I'm big into Jackson Financial, JXN, Regions Financial, KeyCorp, KEY. Their dividend growth has been solid. JXN's kind of a new kid on the block, so that one's a little iffy. I'll take the risk on it and see what happens. But just the bank stocks are taking a big hit, and they're still trying to recover. So I've been really heavily focusing on those two sectors probably for the past 2 years. I'll probably do it for another year or so.
awesome. I do think I saw on your channel, speaking of banks, and I'm sure you know the Canadian banks and how strong they are. And I do think you did a video, or maybe more than one video, on Canadian banks. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, let's see. The Canadian banks are pretty solid. A lot of my subscribers from the I call it Canada, just joking around with you, but in Canada, they're really solid stocks. RY, Bank of Montreal, very high yield dividend stocks. The only problem in the United States is, anytime you get a dividend, you get taxes taken out, except if you have it in a Roth or traditional IRA or a retirement fund. You can correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that listens to this, but I'm pretty sure that's what happens. So yeah, a lot of those sectors are pretty strong. And since I started dividend investing, see, I'm 37 right now. I started doing that in my late, 33 years old. And some of the stocks I started investing in were KeyCorp, KEY, and Regions Financial and Huntington Bank shares. So I sold them because I got a profit during the pandemic, and I rebought them. So I'm trying to get to possibly 400 shares in some of those dividend stocks.
Nice. Yeah, that's always nice when you just see it, whether it's a monthly or quarterly payment, and that dividend just hits your account, and you're like, "Thank you so much for paying me to not." That's, as everybody knows, as most people know, that's almost one of my favorite sayings. Thank you for paying me to not work for you, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, driving over here, I live out in Northeast Ohio, and you see like KeyCorp and Huntington Bank, like just saying to myself, just laughing, like I own you,
Yeah.
So they're pretty good companies, and it's learned their lesson. Since the recession hit, I mean, you can't really pass out loans like it's candy. So, to be a bank stock or financial sector stock and to lose money, you really have to be a bad company, to be honest with you.
Yeah, great points. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, yeah, and going back to the Canadian banks, as you mentioned, they're just solid companies. It's tough to go wrong picking any of the big five or even the big six if you want to include National in there as well. Honestly, I'm not as familiar with the ones you just mentioned. Obviously, I'm familiar with the larger U.S. banks, your J.P. Morgans, your Bank of Americas, your Wells Fargo. Um, what are your thoughts on the larger U.S. banks compared to the ones that you've mentioned?
Um, well, I mean, affordability is a big thing. I mean, I don't, sure, I make, pretty good money as a travel nurse, but, to get to 100 shares of JP Morgan, that's pretty challenging versus KeyBank and Regions Financial. I mean, when I post videos and stuff, I find stuff that's affordable for people. And, there's got to be good dividend growth, 10% dividend growth in certain stocks, even in the real estate sector as well. So
Yeah.
you got to have good numbers. Some of them aren't doing too hot against the S&P. So that's why I'm kind of capitalizing on a lot of those stocks now.
Cool, cool. And speaking of real estate, so let's get into REITs. As most of my viewers know, I love my REITs. I love that monthly income from the REITs. I have several different REITs within the Canadian market. And yeah, I guess I can almost guess because every single American guest I've had on the podcast, I can't think of one single American guest that I've had on this podcast that hasn't held Realty Income, ticker symbol O. So I guess first off, what are your thoughts on Realty Income? And I'm guessing you probably hold it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have 100+ shares in those guys. But another monthly dividend REIT that people don't discuss and is somewhat of a rival of Realty Income is Agree Realty Corporation, ADC. And that one is kind of surprising. I don't really understand why it's more than really. If you look at the portfolio, Realty Income is way higher than Agree Realty Income. But Agree Realty Income, since I think it's 2021, really the board of directors made the call that we're going to be a monthly dividend REIT, and that put those guys on the map. So that's another one that I did sell those guys for a profit. I'm going to rebuy once I'm start getting a lot more dividend income. My M1 Finance dividend portfolio. And I'm really excited for that one. I think that one is a strong rival to Realty Income.
Cool. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that one. Obviously, it doesn't get talked nearly as much on, if at all, on Dividend Twitter. Like all day, every day, it seems like people are tweeting about Realty Income. Like obviously, all of my American people that I follow and follow me back are all talking about Realty Income all the time. So the one you just
Mhm.
mentioned, I'm not sure if I've even heard of it before. And so yeah, I guess we need to pump that one up a little bit more on Twitter or whatnot, right?
Well, I wouldn't say pump, but there's I'm just really impressed with the way they're designed and everything. That's what sold me on them, and that's what's going to have me buy them again. So,
Yeah.
I sold them for a profit. I just couldn't keep up with. I mean, their price was too high on M1 Finance. I couldn't keep up with them. I screwed up the percentage in my fractional share portfolio, and I'm going to eventually rebuy them. I need to figure out what I'm doing with that shortly. But that's one that I'm, kicking myself in the shin. Like I need to buy it. Like every day, I'm like, why am I not buying them?
Yeah,
So
100% right that I used incorrect wording there, not to pump it up, but we should discuss it more, I guess is what I should
yeah,
have said.
yeah, we don't want to be Zach Morris.
No, not at all. Um, any other REITs that excite you?
So monthly dividends, or do you want to discuss quarterly dividends? Because I can go on and on. I could probably go for hours discussing REITs. Um,
Okay, well,
so one of
so
our
the
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the way it's set up here is I have yet to find a REIT that doesn't pay monthly. Like every single one of my REITs pays a monthly dividend, and I get it that if it's a 5% yield, it's a 5% yield, whether that's
Yeah,
monthly or quarterly. So yeah, let's talk about some REITs that pay quarterly if you have some in your
I have
wheelhouse.
I have a lot, and people are like, "Do you have? Isn't that enough?" I go, "No, it's not enough." I like that because I myself, I don't have time for real estate, soup up stuff. I mean, I'm lucky my place is clean over here because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
So literally, the rules of a REIT is 90% of of these companies, 90% of what they make go back to shareholders. So there's some really good ones. One of them I'm kind of turned off on, but they distribute monthly dividends, and I'll probably rebuy them again. Is Stag Industrial. Prologis is industrial REIT. It's kind of similar to them, but they run circles around them. Regarding dividend growth. Um, I own NNN, National Retail Properties. I own Capital SRC. Probably my favorite dividend stock. Everybody asks me, what's your favorite one? I always
The
tell
one
people,
that's paying me next.
yeah, the one, Arbor Realty Trust. That one has impressed me so much, and I own over 400 shares in those guys. It's a mortgage-backed real estate investment trust. It's almost you look at a mortgage-backed REIT, like how is it beating the S&P in the past 5 years? How is it hiking its dividend all the time? Their business portfolio is very strong. Now, again, if something happens, with the economy, MREITs, take a big hit. There's always a risk, and obviously we're not giving financial advice on here, but there's always a risk. But my gosh, the dividends are cheap. I mean, I'm just buying more. I'm getting about $200 quarterly on them. So that's the nice thing on regarding that mortgage-backed REIT. MPW, Medical Properties Trust, I own. I mean, I can go on and on with that. But another platform I'm in is real estate crowdfunding is Fundrise, and I'm very excited for Fundrise. I put in over $10,000 in. I'm getting pretty nice returns. So people like you and I, we're busy. We don't have time for real estate. I'd love to do real estate, but they do the job for us. So that's the beauty of a real estate investment trust. Yes, you can technically say you're a real estate owner because you own REITs. So that's one little flex that you can do.
I'm 100% in agreement with you that I can barely keep up my own house. I would not have the time, energy to upkeep rental properties. And the
Oh,
type of person I am, I probably wouldn't hire a property manager to try to do that for me. I would want to do it myself. And I'm just like, nope, I don't need the headache of being the landlord. I don't need to evict tenants. I don't need to look and search for new tenants. I don't need to get the call at 2 a.m. that the toilet's clogged. Like, so yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you. REITs are definitely an incredible way to invest in real estate without the headache of being a landlord. And I did hear you mention MPW, which I've heard of, which I think that's like a REIT in the healthcare sector, correct?
yeah, Medical Properties Trust. And speaking of landlords and stuff, I had to complain to the landlord this week. I mean, there's somebody that lives across from me. They have kids, and somebody's smoking the Mary Jane. So you got to complain to your landlord about that. And I made a joke with a tweet like, instead of buying weed, why don't you just buy, REITs that are incorporated with weed? So Innovative Industrial Properties is another one that I'm very excited for, and I've been putting money in. It's actually an Uber driver that told me about IIPR. I don't really invest in cannabis REITs unless if I get a dividend. They go, oh, well, you got to check this one out. This is like 3 years ago, so it was kind of interesting how I found out about IIPR.
Nice. It does sound like you and I are kind of similar with our REITs, that we just have a lot of REITs where that we're actually within our REIT portfolio, we're diversified with, healthcare and retail. And, I have one that's called Automotive Properties, where they invest in the land. They own the land that car dealerships are on in large cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, which is very expensive real estate in those cities. And so
Yeah,
owning that amount of land, you can think of how big of a car dealership is, right? Like 400 to 1,000 cars, acres of land. And so I'm like, wow. So even if one of those car dealerships goes south, they have that land that they could sell to a developer or whatever at like an amazing profit. And I look at them going, this, I like them. And, they're one of my strong players. One of my ones where I'd like to buy more, but all of 2022 has been dollar cost averaging down on it, on
Mhm.
everything that you're down on, right?
Yeah, there's one in the Americas, Getty, a GTY. I think it's like car washes and like gas pumps and stuff. But they're, from what I've read, like they're trying to convert to electric with their cars. Although I do believe that
Right.
hybrid cars are the best way to go, because what happens if your electricity is out? How are you going to charge your car? You know, so
Yeah.
diversification is important, because if certain sectors take a hit, and I'll tell you this right now, I invested in private REITs with rich uncles. It was beautiful. I mean, I'm telling you, there was expectations, high expectations of net asset value and their dividend, and they were all student housing. So guess when they started? 2019. They started getting really, really big. So, obviously you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but it was a private REIT, and guess what happened? Pandemic hit. And do you
Right.
think anybody can pay any rent when all the kids are moved out at home? No, gone. Luckily, I don't have to pay. I with taxes, it won't be too bad with me this year, because I took what, a $5,000 hit. But it's good to be diversified. So I threw that money into Store, and look what happened to Store. They're going to get acquired. So I got rid of Store, and I threw it. Where did I throw it in? I'm pretty sure I threw it into maybe NNN or something. Yeah, that's right. I put it in NNN. So it's just good to be diversified. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. And like one of my REITs, EPR Properties, that's a monthly dividend REIT. That's on experiential type things. And those guys focus on like entertainment type things. So I always joke, like, get the AMC investors riled up and say, hey, you got to pay your landlord. EPR. So the other thing, lodging, they're also with ski resorts. So
Cool.
there's like a ski resort over here that EPR Properties owns, actually in Northeast Ohio, I'm pretty sure. So, they took a big hit because obviously the pandemic, who's going to pay rent? So they like suspended their dividend. So I've been buying the dip when the recession hit, and now they started distributing their dip, that one to come back to life.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, you and I both, it sounds like we both have a lot of REITs, maybe a little bit of over diversification just within our REIT portfolio, but again, I'm okay with that because you're getting that for the most part monthly dividend, and they just keep rolling in, and I'm not going to complain when that whatever it is, 10, 20, $50 hits my account every month. I'm just going to say thank you very much for paying me to not work for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, people don't take advantage of that. And it's so funny how many people say to me, oh, I want to invest, I want to invest. And they never come up to me. Like, there's actually one funny thing is, somebody in my apartment complex, we were just talking about investing. And I go, yeah, I'm a dividend investor. And Mark, I go, Mark, she goes, dividend dollar. I go, no, I don't, never heard of them. I just cracked a joke. I go, of course I know Mark. I just promoted his REIT book. She goes, Dividend Seeker? I go, yeah, I know Dividend Seeker. And she's like, no way. So it's like funny. Like,
Wow.
just some of the people are starting to get big. But yeah, it's just so interesting. A 33-year-old nurse at my hospital around travel nursing. I'm like, hey, you put money in a 401k? No. I'm like, why? These people are just, instead of putting money into Starbucks stock, they decide to buy Starbucks products. The Chocomocha
Right.
Chaboka, and spend like $15 on it. Like, what's wrong with you? And that's a problem with people nowadays. They just don't invest in themselves. They don't take care of themselves. That's a big problem. The obesity rate's bad. Hypertension, everything's bad on themselves, and that's a big problem right now.
Yeah, so actually, you mentioned Starbucks. That's a great segue into the next sector, like consumer staples. What obviously there's so many great US companies in that consumer staples category. You have your Walmarts, your Costco's, your Coca-Colas, Pepsi's, as you mentioned, Starbucks, McDonald's. Like honestly, the list just goes on and on. I could
Yeah.
I could name 100 of them, I'm sure. So what's in consumer staples that you like, don't like, anything? Just thoughts on consumer staples? General
Well,
Mills is another one. Like I said, the list goes on and on.
they're all, I mean, I'd be surprised if they were bad. There's so many of them. One of them I'm kind of upset with, not really, but probably less. They had to suspend, or I'm sorry, not suspend, cut their dividend. And they have really good products out there in the stores, but, debt got in the way. Conagra Brands, I'm pretty sure that's a consumer staples. They,
Yep.
they have a lot of products with steaming vegetables and stuff. You'll see their logo out there. That one I like. I have Coca-Cola. I eventually will probably get Pepsi when I get enough dividend income. So one of my strategies is for my high enough to start buying dividend stocks like Pepsi and stuff.
Yeah.
On my E-Trade dividend portfolio, start buying stocks like that. So that's one strategy I'm uh, thinking about implementing. Pepsi's really good. I like Wendy's. Wendy's is actually in a lot of their burgers and stuff. It's a really good company. They're up and coming. They're cheap, and they started to hike their dividends. So there's just so many.
Yeah, like I said off the top of this segment, so many, right? There's just so many. Um, the list just goes on and on and on. And like you said, they're all, for the most part, very good companies. Again, not financial advice. Do your own research, do your own due diligence. But you look at these super strong U.S. companies that have been around for decades, generations, and you just think, well, they're not going anywhere. They're going to continue paying that dividend that they've been paying. You're hoping for dividend growth. Of course, there's always the risk of the dividend cut, like you just mentioned with that one company. But I mean, that's part of the game as well, right?
Yeah,
You're hoping for the growth and hoping that you don't get the cuts.
yeah. What really helped me a lot too was I just did some digging, and there's a guy Matthew Ramey who I sometimes will, like tag him. So he had a website. He had certain stocks with a distribution schedule, and he showed his dividend income. And I started to get, into YouTube, and I'm like, hey, is it? I actually sent him an email. I said, hey, can I call you real quick? Him and I are really tight now. I'm like, hey, can I kind of promote your link and stuff because I like your dividend schedule that you have. So I learned a lot of products out there like Tyson, Conagra Brands. Some of those I kind of adapted to his philosophy, and I kind of like that as well. He's doing really well, and he's very busy. So that's one guy you should probably get on here as well with your
Yeah,
podcast. I think he's very sharp, very underrated as a dividend investor.
yeah, definitely would love to have them. As you know, I love to have everybody on. This is like what I do. I just love talking to people about different, well, about everything, right? Just all the different companies in the market. So, Canada, US. This has been quite the whirlwind roller coaster for me over the last 2.5 months, as you know. So, yeah, I would definitely love to have them on.
Yes, I'm really good buddies with Lanny with the Dividend Diplomats. I actually am very tight with his brother. Him and his brother and I were grade school buddies. So it's kind of a small world and
Cool.
stuff.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I am mirror images. Matt, his brother Matt was party a lot. Laney's very frugal and stuff. Laney is like where my parents live. Our neighbors, I think they were retired professors in finance, and Laney was like one of their best students in the master's program in finance at Akron University. So I say hi to them. They go, "How's Laney doing?" I'm like, "Well, wait a second. I haven't seen you in a while. You're asking about Laney." So Laney's a very
Yeah,
sharp.
what about me?
Yeah. So, he's a very sharp individual as well. So, very strong dividend investing community over here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the dividend Twitter community has been absolutely amazing. From my perspective, just the amount of support that I've had from people like yourself willing to come on and spend time with me talking for 45 minutes or an hour, and the amount of people that are just watching these videos as well, or these podcasts on YouTube and listening to them when I finally someday I will get them uploaded onto audio platforms. Yeah, it's just been an It's an incredible community. Everyone's so supportive of each other. I've said it in past podcasts. You see tweets of somebody saying, "Hey, I made my first dividend ever of say 5 or 7 cents," and you can see they're just totally stoked about it. And everybody in the community is like, "Hey, that's great. That's 7 cents. Just keep going because that's going to turn into 70 cents and $7 and $70 and $700, right?" So just and it's like the support that everybody gives each other in that dividend Twitter community is absolutely amazing.
And it's easy. That's the nice thing. It's easy, and I mean, people day trade and do options. I mean, it can blow up in your face doing day trading and options. All you do with dividend investing is you put money in and you just reinvest the dividends. It's not hard. That's the best thing about
Yeah,
it.
it's not hard at all. You're literally just sitting there waiting for them to pay you to not work for them.
Pretty much. And I mean, to be a shareholder, I mean, it's crazy. From what I was reading is how a dividend started, is people didn't believe in, these reports of income, these companies would make. So they started distributing dividends. I'm pretty sure that's a story of how dividends started. So, people thought they were full of it. So no, we're going to give you a dividend, with their earnings and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that's how it started with the dividend.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not 100%
So
sure either. I'll need to look into that to just find out the origin of the dividend payment. That would be a great thing to find out, to know, right?
yeah, and I mean, with our branch of DibTwit, people like, who's a leader? I'm like, there's no leaders. So everybody is. I would consider everyone a leader within. And I mean, we have a responsibility in DibTwit because FinTwit they have a terrible reputation right now. Web3, there's a lot of rug pulls. Obviously, Mr. Zach Morris and his group of Atlas, they're in some hot water, and just listening to Spaces, it's not good. So that's something that we have to do as a responsibility of being a reputation in line. I think that's probably the biggest part of one of our responsibilities in DibTwit right now. Probably for the
next, I'd agree,
because the reputation's bad. It really is. And I mean, people don't trust each other. There's a lot of finger pointing. So, we got to fix that.
Cool. That's not cool, but moving along, a few other sectors. We've already talked about REITs, and we've talked about banks. We've talked about the consumer staples. Another sector I do like to discuss is energy. And we have some major Canadian players in the energy sector. What do you see in energy that you like, dislike, or anything else?
I'm not too heavy on them, but I do have ONEOK and Enbridge. So in AQN, Algonquin, hopefully I said that correct.
Yeah.
There could be a dividend cut with those guys, but they're a pretty strong conglomerate. It's very exciting, like very interesting and intricate portfolio they have in diversification. I think that's very interesting, but they're a high yielder. I do own those guys, and I'm very excited to see what happens with those guys in the future. They have pretty good growth. Again, there could be a few issues with debt, but they did a lot of acquisitions from what I read. So
right.
Hopefully that'll eventually pay off and they don't have to cut a dividend. But they have a pretty strong reputation of hiking their dividend. So that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, so those are both Canadian companies, Enbridge and Algonquin Power. I don't hold Enbridge myself. I do have Algonquin Power. And yeah, for the last 2 weeks, month, 6 weeks, however long, because their stock prices really dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been looking at it going, do I dollar cost average way down and buy more shares, or do I wait and see if there's a dividend cut? Because I don't want to, buy a whole bunch more if there is going to be a dividend cut. But at the same time, I do want to buy a whole bunch more at like a super sale discount price. And it's tough to know which way to go.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed in Pembina. Didn't they do a dividend cut? That I did sell them. I used to own them and sold them. But let's see, I have a lot of see MMP. I have TSLX. A lot of pipeline like type of stocks and stuff. So just kind of playing around with those guys. Who knows what'll happen? But biggest thing are those K2s that you got to worry about, at the end of the year. So that's why I have a tax advisor to take care of it. But trying to think what else.
Yeah, nice.
TS. I think that's. I think may have one more, but I'm pretty. Oh, Kinder Morgan. I have Kinder Morgan as well, KMI, and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm not too heavy in it. That's probably one thing I want to look at. Let's see, I did have First Energy. That's more of a utilities company, and they're kind of like a juggernaut over here, but they haven't hiked their dividend. And
Right.
they own the Cleveland Brown, or they have the stadium name with Cleveland Browns. So I don't know if you would want to do that with the reputation of the Cleveland Browns, but really need to probably eventually start putting more money into. But right now, like I said, the financial sector and real estate sector, I'm going heavy in.
Yeah,
Allies,
those are two good ones.
yeah, I forgot about Ally. I added Ally. Um, that's one that Warren Buffett owns. So they have pretty good dividend growth. The revenue is a little iffy, but they have a pretty strong rep. So we'll see what happens.
Nice. Nice. And you mentioned utilities. I do kind of lump utilities in with energy as well because like they're just necessary, right? Like you need your energy, you need your utilities. I,
Yeah.
I guess you could kind of say they're two different sectors. Personally, I do kind of lump them in together. I guess that's just me. So, and I think you could probably argue that point both, 7 different ways from Sunday, as the saying goes, right?
Hmm.
Telecoms, another sector that like. I like a lot. In Canada, we kind of have, well, we do have the big three being Bell Canada, TELUS, and Rogers. In the US, you kind of have the big three being AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and then there are some smaller players in both countries. Any thoughts on the telecoms?
Well, AT&T, I was disappointed with their dividend cut. So I did sell them. If they start hiking their dividend, sure, I'll be back in them. Verizon, the same thing. I mean, well, they didn't cut their dividend, but I sold them into something else that had stronger dividend growth. Verizon might be something I rebuy. I did have TELUS and BCE. I screwed up my portfolio with M1 Finance. It's a really good companies for Canadians. I mean, it's just you got to worry about the taxes, but they've been hiking their dividend. They're pretty high yield. Those are pretty good ones. But honestly, that's one sector I need to look at. Um, but right now, I'm kind of doing a wait and see thing.
Right.
It's
So honestly, you're one of the
very good
first
to be.
American U.S. guests that I've had that is quite knowledgeable and quite involved in the Canadian market. Like, you've had or held or still hold Bell and Telus, and yeah, and the Canadian banks as well. It's yeah, I guess I'm just saying, good for you, right? Looking outside just the U.S. and
Yeah,
yeah, and again, I've seen on your YouTube channel too where you've made videos about different Canadian stocks as well. So I don't know. I'm not even sure what I'm saying at this point. Sorry.
yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I kind of screwed that up with my distribution on M1 Finance with TELUS and BCE. But it's always something I can always rebuy and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's something I haven't rolled out. It's just those Canadian taxes. That's the only issue with it. You get a really nice dividend. It's like, sorry, you got to give that back.
Right.
So that's one negative with that. But you have it in it's kind of a different story.
Interesting. Yeah, obviously I'm not familiar. Like obviously we don't have Roth IRAs here, and we do have something that I believe is similar from what I've discussed with other American guests. We have something called a TFSA, which is a tax-free savings account, where basically you can within that savings, it's really an investment account. Within that account, you can buy your shares that are basically tax-free. But with that said, it would be the same thing for me buying those US companies. I would be paying some kind of, foreign buyer's tax on it, I'm sure, right? Unless I can and I do know I've had other guests, 2 other Canadian guests, who say, well, if you buy them in your RRSP, then you don't pay as much tax on them. So that's just something that I haven't figured out yet. I need to figure out in the future. And again, this is just how the way our 2 countries work, right? Back and forth and figuring out how we can best maximize our profits without paying everything to the government.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We've covered a lot of topics already in just over 35 minutes. Technology, another sector I like to discuss. Obviously, in the US, you have your Apples. I consider Tesla a technology stock more than a car company. Yeah, obviously your Microsofts, your IBMs, your Texas Instruments, sort of
Mhm.
another sector where in the US the list just continues to go on and on. Any thoughts on the technology sector?
Well, I just started buying an Intel. Really excited with the microchip. It's like an arms race, honestly, with microchips. Like who can have the best microchips? So Instruments trying to be competitive with that. Intel is going to be building a factory in Columbus, Ohio. So there's a lot of expectations on that. I just posted a video on that as to why I'm buying Intel. Their revenue's been strong. They're really cheap right now as a dividend stock, and the price per share has gone down. I think one time they're like 50s or something like that, and they're way down there. I think they're less than $30. They're 5% dividend yield, and they're diversified in the technology sector. But the big thing is that microchips.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big, arms race. So that's one that I just started investing in, and I'm glad I did. And I mean, another one that people don't, talk about is Seagate. It's like if you go on their website, they're like really involved with like video games, like software and stuff. That's one that Matthew Ramey like posted on his website, and that's a really interesting stock and pretty decent dividend growth. It blew up pretty fast when they were discussing crypto. I'm pretty sure people pumped that one, but that one blew up too fast, and I had to sell it for a profit on M1 Finance. So now I'm like, gosh, I wish I had that again. But Seagate's another one that's really popular with technology. Now IBM, their revenue like doesn't seem too hot. So I used to own them. I got rid of them. Another one that what was another one? Texas Instruments is really hot. I just remember the TI-83s in high school with Texas Instruments with the logo. And I can tell you, I've taken a lot of courses in college, and if it wasn't for a TI-83, I don't know what the hell I would have done, taking calc. I
Right.
mean,
Wow.
that and organic chemistry. That was probably the hardest course I've ever taken. That's before I even became a nurse. So like you're taking OChem 1 and 2, and thank gosh for those programs you can download on, the TI-83s.
Wow, sticking with the technology sector, but sort of the more, web-based things like Google, Amazon, Meta, Twitter. Any thoughts on those platforms and their stocks and stock prices and shares?
Well, if they distributed a dividend, I'd buy them. But I will only invest in the stock unless it distributes a dividend. That's just my
Right.
philosophy. I've always stuck with that. I mean, if I put money in something, I want something out of it. So that's just the way I see it.
Yep. I love that. I love that strategy. Just show me the money. Show me the money every month or every quarter. And if you don't pay me a dividend, next, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have VTI for my Roth IRA. Sure, Google and Tesla and all that stuff is in there, but I really will only invest in a company if I receive a dividend. And even like crowdfunding, companies that say that they will eventually distribute a dividend, that's the only reason why I'll invest in them. That's the first question I ask is, are you going to distribute dividends? If you're not,
Right.
you're a waste of my time.
I love it. I love it. The whole like synopsis of the passive income podcast is we want our dividends. Give us our dividends. Whether you pay us monthly or quarterly, doesn't matter to us. Just pay us our dividends.
Or even
That's what we want.
Right, even semi-annually. So I mean, there's some
Sure.
really good semi-annual dividends. Diageo is another one. So that's a really good semi-annual one. So I know you guys like your Crown Royal. I like my Crown Royal on Christmas, the day after Christmas, taking a few shots with family. That's Diageo. I like Tanqueray and Tonic. That's Diageo. So Diageo has a lot of like wine and spirits with that, and that's a really solid dividend stock. So
Yeah,
that's
wow.
one thing that people don't realize is some of the semi-annual ones are pretty good as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of Crown Royal, another great Canadian company, and I do not allow myself to drink hard liquor. I basically just stick with beer. I like beer, and my body agrees with beer. My brain agrees with the beer. My body and brain does not agree with hard liquor. So I steer clear of Crown Royal as best I can.
I can tell you, I was with my dad, and it's 6 in the morning. We were taking some shots of Crown before go into the Ohio State Michigan game. So for college football. So that's kind of our. And if somebody offers you, a Crown Apple, you're like, what? No, give me the real stuff. Give me Crown or Crown Black. Let's go.
Yeah.
But no, they have really good products, and that's one thing that's really nice about those guys.
Cool. I'm just gonna pull up your YouTube channel here. You can see it there on the screen for those watching on YouTube. Here is Darth's YouTube channel. Like I said off the top, nearly 11,000 subscribers, so you're doing really well over there. Tons of great videos. I've watched several of them myself, and I guess sort of what got you into making YouTube videos, and how's it? Well, obviously it's going fairly well.
Gosh, that's a good question. Half of my I was like half awake doing 4 hours of sleep, being in nurse practitioner school. Now it's starting to slow down, thank God. But yeah, what really inspired me to do it, I used to, right when it was weird, like a sleepless night. I'm like, gosh, um, I don't think a 401k or a 403b is enough for retirement. So I just started looking at extra ways to make income. And I said, okay, this passive income, let me look into it. So I saw dividend investing. So I watched some of PPC Ian's videos, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty straightforward. So I actually had a niche, which was like nursing. And I'm like, I had 2,000 subscribers, and I changed it back in 2019 to dividend investing. So I went from GB MERS to dark dividend, and some people weren't happy about that,
Yeah,
but who
you lost
cares?
some
I mean,
subscribers, but in the long run, it was the right decision, right?
yeah, and now I'm starting to collaborate. I'm starting to. I ran into someone in public. They're like, "You're dark dividend." I'm like, what? How do you know that? I'm like, don't say that.
You're like, I'm not Mr.
Like
Beast.
looking
I'm
at them
not
like,
famous, right?
yeah. So, but yeah, some people have pulled me aside before. I thought that was really interesting out in my area. Yeah, it's yeah. One of my there's a nurse practitioner that found me that was a retired nurse practitioner. She's like, I saw you on YouTube. I'm a dividend investor. I go, what? Really? Which ones do you invest in? So we were like talking about that too. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened. I just said, hey, I'm going to be straightforward. This is what I invest in. This is what's hot. This is why I provide my rationales as to why I buy them. I do a dividend stock analysis, company review on my channel, and I pretty much tell people like, hey, I don't like it. I'm not giving financial advice. Like, why would you buy this? I just did a comparison of QYLD versus SCHD, and SCHD like runs circles around QYLD. So, I just kind of do dividend investing strategies for people and just show them, stuff that's not financial advice, for entertainment purposes only. I always have a disclaimer in my description, but I show people what's really like popping right now and why people are buying it.
Yeah, so I will definitely link your channel in the description below. And yeah, that's a great story. Just getting in, making videos, and a few years later, you have just shy. You're gonna hit 11,000 subscribers before the end of the year, probably, right? Like you're just that close.
I'm hoping so. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I enjoy doing it. It doesn't feel like a job. It's like a hobby. So instead of going out, pounding beers and stuff, sure, I'll just do a video or something, keeps
Yeah.
me out of trouble, saves me money and stuff. And, I can respond to tweets and stuff. So Twitter's starting to get big. I'm like way behind in responding. So that's one thing I want to make sure that I start doing is responding to people a little bit better.
Yeah, so I'm the exact same thing. Like, obviously, I'm not monetized yet on YouTube, but I just love this format that I've come up with for the Passive Income Podcast, where I just bring people on. People are willing to come on. We just talk for 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm just talking to people. And like you said, it's not financial advice. We're not doing technical analysis. We're not doing deep dives into stocks. We're just talking. We're just having a great conversation, right? So yeah, very similar to you. It doesn't feel like work at all. It's just something that I'm really enjoying doing, and I'm really hoping I continue to enjoy doing it through, next year and beyond. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice thing with like dividend investing. You don't have to go crazy with technical analysis. Sure, you can do a stock to see how stocks do compared against the S&P. Or in stock analysis and dividend stock analysis, you don't have to say, "Oh, the candlestick's going down here. This is when everybody's
yeah.
buying it." That's the one. That's the nice thing about that. You don't have to fry people's brains while watching it and stuff. Some people are like, "Oh, that's not technical enough." I'm like, I'm straightforward. Like, look, it's not doing too well this year. This is why I bought the dip. I'm providing my rationales and revealing my dividend income and my portfolio for free. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
some people offer Patreon. I'm like, no, my stuff's free. Just watch it.
Yeah. I do have to ask you about Darth. Obviously, you have to be a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, that's kind of how it started. I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's do a Star Wars thing. And I'm like, you know what? Dividend, dark dividend consumed by the dividend side. There you go.
Yeah, nice. And there I just have up on screen for those watching on YouTube, at Darth Dividend on Twitter.
Yeah,
Actually,
23, dark dividend 23.
that's
Yeah,
right.
I couldn't. Somebody took my name like dark dividend like in the beginning, so I'm like, oh, I gotta add a 23 to that. Hopefully, I can reclaim it, but it is what it is.
Is the 23 for Jordan?
Uh, Jordan, and that was my high school football number. But yeah, it's pretty much for Jordan. I was a big Jordan
Nice,
fan.
nice. So yeah, you can definitely find Darth on Twitter as well. Like I said here, at Darth Dividend 23, and he's going to be doing the best he can to respond to more DMs and tweets that he's tagged in.
It's been really interesting. There's people that have actually asked me to do like OnlyFans with them and like porn. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, no, I'm not. I'm a nurse. Like, yeah, I'm in nurse practitioner school. Like, I don't want to lose my license because you can actually get in trouble with that. I thought that's one thing that was really weird. Is like people that have been subscribers like want to like do videos. I'm like, no, I don't do that.
Okay,
No.
that's pretty funny. I got to admit, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, that was a little weird. Now
Wow.
it's weird community once you like start doing videos. Some odd people. You're gonna get
Yeah,
hate. I mean, there's people that don't like your videos. I mean, it is what it is, or your
yeah.
philosophies. I mean, working for me so far. So, if it works, don't fix it. But sometimes you can break something and fix it even better. So, we'll see.
Awesome. So, like I said, we've kind of plowed through all the different sectors that I like to discuss in just in sort of 35 or 40 minutes, and then took a quick look at your YouTube channel, your Twitter page. Obviously, you're growing quite nicely on those social medias. Obviously, your YouTube is doing quite well. And anything else you'd like to discuss or talk about or bring up before we sign off?
I don't know. I mean, really, it's. I appreciate you having me on. I also have someone who I refer to as an apprentice, as a master and apprentice. So you should probably get her on here too. I'll send you a message. She's been on Twitter and stuff. So
Cool.
she has a very interesting philosophy. She's way younger than me, and there's a lot of potential. So that's someone that you should probably get on here. And Frank
Definitely.
Noir too. So Frank actually goes to the University of Cincinnati. I go to Cincinnati. I don't drive there or anything, but I'm in nurse practitioner school with that currently. So he's an up and coming investor too. So those two you should probably have on here in the future. And
Yeah,
I
I'm
would,
definitely.
and if I can get on here with Laney and Bert with the dividend diplomats, like all three of us with you, I'd do it in 5 minutes. So I know those
Definitely,
guys.
yeah. I'm always looking for more guests. As everyone on Twitter knows, I'm always DMing people saying, "Hey, when would you like to be a guest on the Passive Income Podcast?"
And actually, Laney's brother, I put a really good prank on him. I'll have to tell you guys if we do a podcast together what I did. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, definitely. I'm quite sure I do follow those guys. They're, yeah, like you said, dividend diplomats, but it's not all the letters. It's like DVND or something like that.
Yeah, it's like they have some crazy letters and stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I would love to have them on. I would love to have this younger apprentice of yours on. Like I said, I'm always looking for more guests, and I've got all of next year. It's wide open. Actually, it's not wide open. I do have guests booked in January and even a couple in February, but I just keep booking, scheduling more people to come on, and I'm like I said, I'm loving just talking to people like this. So yeah, anybody that you want to send my way, please feel free.
Yeah, you can have me on another time, anytime.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely will do. With that said, like I said, we covered so many topics so quickly, and it's been an absolutely amazing discussion. Like so many conversations already on the Passive Income Podcast. If you are still watching this late in the episode, subscribe. Those are the rules. You're still here. You have to subscribe.
And hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos.
Exactly.
Yeah. Don't forget to smash the like button as well.
Smash that like button. Subscribe. Subscribe.